money's owed contractors. But to what extent are we also advocating for the part of the contract that allows for the contractor to go by the lifetime, the lifespan of the contract?
The Minister is proposing for a national dialogue on road financing. Mr. Speaker, I think that is the appropriate thing to do. Let us all have a conversation as to how we fund our roads. We can never have enough loans or World Bank or free money from anywhere. So let's have a debate on how we fund our roads internally. So apart from this is the most important thing I have seen in this, because if we are able to address this together as one people, we have sat here and said that once upon a time, accrual to road fund was just about 250 million. Honorable Enusa Husseini came to this house and requested Parliament to increase the petroleum revenue portion to 47%. That is what made it 1.2 billion at the time. Today it's approaching 3 billion. Maybe it's time we need to think of what we can do to see if we can generate our own 6 to 10 billion cedis annually. Then a finance minister can decide what to do with that, because that is our own money. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very excited about that particular one. The last one is the reintroduction of road tolls. Mr. Speaker, I think the minister has done the right thing. We've maintained that the suspension was in a haste. Even if today, by the time we suspended it, we're getting 78 million. Mr. Speaker, 78 million can pay SMCs, small, medium contract who are within the roadside, because today we can't pay them. So I welcome the bold decision by the minister to reintroduce the debate on road tolls as well. We don't believe it should come in the form it used to be. It can come in a form that is more sustainable and that can protect the accruals more than it used to be. So, Mr. Speaker, these two paragraphs I'm happy about.
Going forward, I'll say that, these are in 3 stages. We have prior to the spillage, and then during, and then also after. I think issues that came up prior to the spillage included VRA not informing everybody adequately, including members of parliament who have cause to complain, and myself, so that we could go on the ground and help to communicate what they intended doing, which was very important because they needed to do that to prevent the breaking down of the dam, which in fact, if that should happen, the water, the flood water would have wiped out totally the entire Suakope and many communities, including Ibiketano and so on. And so it was very important that the spillage took place. But then we felt that the result of the spillage, the cause of it during when it was happening, we underestimated the extent to which it was going to cause so much havoc, or the devastation that we recorded. And I must say that the simple thing to say on this occasion is that the VRA, I mean, could have done this earlier, and that was why I think many of us are calling for some investigation into the matter, because this is something which they've been doing every year. It's a routine exercise and something that you are always engaged in every year. Definitely, you should become a master of it. You should become, I mean, somebody who's gained a lot of experience, and then be able to, in fact, know how these things are done in such a way that there's a minimal effect of it when it is spilled. So a minimal effect in terms of flooding and taking people out of jobs and creating the problem it created. So for it to happen the way it happened, clearly it's marked some sense of one feeling that it's deliberate. They knew what they were doing, and so all sort of things came into mind. And so we had to really rally around and all that, and people were really, really impacted heavily, negatively. Government can only give us 220 million Ghana cedis as a projected money to be assessed next year, while people are suffering today. We don't even know whether when we begin to assess it next year, that money will be forthcoming. The government should be able to assess situations and be able to predict enough when to spill and at what rate. By now, they should be able to determine a standard rate at which when the dams are spilled, it wouldn't cause problem. Now, I know they may not have all the controls at their disposal, but there are institutions. There are institutions, including the meteorological department, that are working on their own predictions, but are not just in isolation, but are also working with the international center to also be able to predict the climate or the weather over a longer period, to be able to advise what are likely to happen.
For some time now, education has been a very difficult topic for us to discuss, and then myself as a member of parliament have gone through a certain depressive situations when it comes to education in my constituency. It's a reason why I even started a project 3 years ago, and I named it Going to School with Joy. The reason behind that project is that it looks as if our decision makers at the educational level do not really care about the outcome of the education we are paying for. Students go on vacation months, and then 2 weeks they are home. Few weeks after, they are supposed to go on vacation. I think the BEC candidates got their results less than 2 weeks. And then we just got a release from the Ministry of Education that they are supposed to go to school on the 4th of December. Let's just put the students aside. When you go to Mokola, when you go to all the shops in Ghana, this is the time that people have invested money. This is the time that market women are saying that, oh, the little investment I have sent it to Togo, I've sent it to China, I have brought Christmas stuff for parents to buy. We are all not educationists, we are all not students. There are people that are trading in the market That's a source of livelihood for these people. So if I've invested, let's say, 100,000 Ghana cedis to go and buy Christmas clothes to sell, and at the same time, government is saying that these students should go to school, no parent will prioritize Christmas over going to school. So what happens is that everybody that has invested in trading during this Christmas period has just run to a loss. 2, when you come back to education, I am from Novda constituency. When you go to any of the 3 senior high schools in my constituency, you don't only find people from Novda in those schools. You get people from Wale Wale, you get people from Accra, you get people from Kumasi. The time parents are supposed to use to prepare before these kids travel all the way from wherever they are coming from is so limited. So sometimes I sit back and I ask that, is it that some of our people in such positions do not have their kids in Ghana, hence are not going through the same frustrations that Ghanaian parents are going through? We have called on the minister in the chamber. The ranking member of education has spoken, has given a statement. The only thing we saw at the end of the statement was to reaffirm the decision of the minister that I said the students are going to school on the 4th. Ghanaians are not happy. I am not happy. I'm a parent as well. I am not happy. I don't know why they would want to drag their feet when it comes to those of us who cannot afford our kids going outside the country to school. But what I am saying is that anybody that can help in these difficult times should come to the aid of these kids. Like I am doing. What I'm doing this time is I'm taking the prospectus of all the candidates that have the opportunity to go to school, all the successful candidates, and then I'm going to take some portion of what's on the prospectus to see how best I can help the parents to be able to get their kids to school. But what we are saying now is that the Ministry of Education hasn't been fair to we, the market women, hasn't been fair to we, the parents of these students, and hasn't been fair to education in general in Ghana.
I want to place on record that the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs has assured us that the media reports which troubled all of us earlier this year of a judgment debt of $140 million, the GPGC matter Trafigura, which they have attached a number of our properties in the UK, particularly Regina House. The Foreign Minister assured us that she will do everything to make sure that those attached properties are protected. I take note that the Finance Minister has started paying that judgment debt of $140 million. But, Mr. Speaker, clearly this is judgment debt which was avoidable, which should not have put our diplomatic missions under such stress, under such risk. And ministers must be told in very clear terms that when they are taking these decisions, they should think about the interests of the country. This contract, Mr. Speaker, for 5 years will have cost just $140 million. Now, for no work done, we have to pay a judgment debt of $140 million. And the risk is really real and alive, that if care is not taken, if we default, our diplomatic missions, particularly Regina House, will be lost. It will be auctioned.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He's the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He's the Redeemer.
And thank you very much for joining us on Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows. We are live on Pan-African Television. Of course, we are live from the studios of Pan-African Television in Abelenkwe. We are also live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. There are many other stations currently tuning to us across Ghana. If you're listening to us on any of those stations, thank you for choosing us. We are with you until we finish the 3 issues we'll be discussing this morning. I am Sena Nombo. This morning, we are talking about the Lithium Deal, the agreement, the import of the entire agreement for the future. Because everybody has been trying to draw attention to the fact that lithium is the battery that will power the renewable energy agenda. So if you have that mineral, you have to have a way of dealing with it in a manner that does not benefit only your present, but also your future. So we're talking about that, the agreement in place and how it will benefit us, not only for the present, but also into the future. And then we'll move to what is happening in Palestine. Initially, we're talking about Gaza. It's gone beyond Gaza. It's in West Bank. It's in even refugee camps are even involved. We're talking about the genocide that is being perpetrated by Israel against the people of Palestine in our second discussion. And then we'll conclude with the office of the special prosecutor. Well, somebody went to Parliament and raised issues with how the special prosecutor now, Kisia Jabing, was expressing frustrations about his dealings with the judiciary and everything. And then the speaker interrupted and said, but I knew when we were passing the act, I told you people that this was going to be futile. It was leading you to nowhere. The way you have structured that act for the office of the special prosecutor will make it difficult for it to achieve anything. That was a comment he made in passing, but that became the comment that has attracted a lot of attention because they were considering the budget of the office of the special prosecutor. But was the speaker right that so far the special prosecutor's office has proven to be a futile arrangement? That's how we'll conclude the discussion today. And joining me to discuss these issues is the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana and a regular on this program, Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who joins us. And sitting right by him is Honorable Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, who is Member of Parliament for the people of Tamale. Nowadays, he doesn't protest as much when they call him Honorable. First, he used to be a tussle between myself and you. You get tired. And of course, we are joined by lawyer Apia Dankwa, who is in a Liverpool shirt this morning. I don't know why he chose Liverpool. But nice to see you. Lawyer. Lawyer is a member of Alan for President 2024 team, and he joins us in studio. We'll also be joined by Nia Boyana, who is a financial analyst. That's my panel for today to discuss the issues we've tabled. And of course, let's jump right into it. But it's important that if you're watching us on Facebook, you're listening to us, use the WhatsApp number, a text message number, send us a message. What do you think about the discussions we're having? If you're watching us on Facebook, use the comment section and comment. I'll read as many comments as I can on this show. We'll start with the discussion of the lithium agreement. And of course, I'll start from Comrade Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed, because everybody has been talking to them about the possibility of ensuring that they do not ratify the agreement. Comrade.
Well, Sena, good morning, and good morning to Senior, good morning to my butterfly friend and my other colleague, and also your viewing public, most importantly, the good people of Tamale Central. If you permit me, I would love to use this opportunity to wish all those vying for the assembly elections, particularly in Tamale Metropolis, all the best. And you know, we don't need to engage in politicizing it, but of course, everybody knows that there is some kind of politics in it. I wish all of them the best in the elections. Sena, first and foremost, I think it's important for us to put in context the lithium deal as we have it, and the lithium deal in general, or lithium in general. It has become the newfound oil, or if you like, the newfound gold, such that the value of it is estimated to quadruple the value of oil and other, you know, extractive minerals. The entire globe is moving away from fossil fuel because of the hazardous effect it has on the climate. And it's been encouraged that if we want to move away from the effects of this climate change, some believe that moving away from fossil fuel is one of the surest way. Tesla, which is producing these electric cars, has projected that by the year 2030, they'll be needing about 1,000 kilotons of lithium. 1,000. The country with the highest production of lithium currently, I think, is Australia. It is projected that what we intend to produce within a year will virtually envelope what Australia produces a year. We're told they produce about 400 tons of lithium a year, or 400,000. And we are projecting to produce in millions, and therefore we have the potential of being the country with the highest production of lithium. The question is, should we allow such an arrangement to be done, or we could have done something different? There are already laws in this country that regulate the conduct of state actors in terms of the extracting of our minerals. If you look at the Mining and the Minerals Act of 703, specifically Section 25, which has been triggered by the minister, because the section says, among others, that you can negotiate to find out the rate at which, you know, you can have these royalties on these extracted minerals are done. The difficulty that many people have has to do with the fact that we're using gold or other extracted minerals as a benchmark to determine the rate of royalties or prices that we tag to this particular one, considering the fact that this one is scarce. It's not every country in the world that has it. So that is one challenge that people have raised. However, the Minerals and Mining Act of the specific section that I read on this Act 703 was couched in reference to other extracted minerals that we had. Maybe at that time we didn't even contemplate that we'll be extracting lithium or other, you know, minerals. Now, if you look at that act, the minister indeed is required to determine the rate of royalties that are to be paid. What I see the minister is doing, and proponents those who support this arrangement, is what I describe as mediocre at best. And I describe it as mediocre at best is that we are being told that royalties were 5% if you compare them to other minerals such as gold. And that this one we have been able to negotiate that we are going to be pegging it at 10%. And I listened to the Minister for Lands, and he vaunted that His Excellency the President took particular interest in it and used the word consummate lawyer. And then he took a particular interest into this, and for which reason we're able to negotiate the payment of the royalties, you know, from 5% to 10%. And so if the President was an active participant and determined the royalties that are paid for this lithium, then God save this country. The reason why they want us to believe that they did something outstandingly good and that they should be celebrated is because they've been able to up it from 5% to 10%. The question one asks is that could we have had better than the 5%? Couldn't we have negotiated and arranged such that we increase ours from 5%, if you like, to maybe 20 or to 30%? One would say that even 20, 30% people would have raised eyebrows, but it would have been better than the arrangement that is being done. And more so, the point I made earlier, they use the other extractive minerals as a benchmark, which should not be the case. Because you can find gold in many countries across the globe. Even in Africa, there are several countries that you can find gold in Africa. But lithium, you can find them in few countries. So in terms of the scarcity of that particular mineral against other minerals, the value of it for me, apart from the fact that the entire global community is moving away from fossil fuel and other, means of generating power and industrializations and others, we are moving from fossil fuel and then we are moving to things like this. I think that the value is certainly projected to be several folds higher than what we already have. So using it as a benchmark, for me, is a problem. And to wanting us to celebrate and praise you because the benchmark you use, which we have a problem with it, and wanting us to celebrate you because you have increased the royalties from 5% to 10%, for me, is mediocre. Now, the other issue that I think that we ought to look at, apart from the fact that the section 25 of Act 703 talks, among others, that the minister in charge of a ministry that is handling that can negotiate the rate. Why is it that the minister failed to activate section 110 subsection U? The section 110 subsection U of the same act, the Act 703, says that the minister can bring to Parliament an ally for Parliament to determine the specific royalties that ought to be paid. Some of us feel that if the minister had done that, that would have been better, considering the fact that this is a pioneer lease we are given as far as lithium is concerned. This is a pioneer lease. So what it means is that if tomorrow another company comes or entity and they decide that they want to do exploration somewhere in the north or somewhere in Brunhaf or in Ashanti, and they did their exploration and they discovered that there is lithium, you will not be able to sell it to them, or they will not be able to pay royalties higher than what these people are paying, because it won't make even sense. Are you getting what I'm saying? But if the minister had come to Parliament through an ally, so that Parliament would determine a specific royalties, even adjusting them as we have in Chile, for me that would have been better. Now, we are also being told that this is the best worldwide. And I said that is not true. Chile has what they call marginal increase in value. So they don't have a specific royalties that are paid for their extractive minerals. They have a margin as and when the value of that particular mineral increases, there is an adjustment system which will increase the royalties that you pay. And for me, this is the best, and this is what we should have done. The other argument that is being made by government, particularly the minister, is that, look, the people have invested so much money into this. They spend their money to do the exploration. And therefore, when we are having such arrangement with them, we have been able to negotiate it from 5% to 10%. We might not have had the money to do the exploration. And I say no. The total amount of money they are investing into this project is $250 million. How much are we spending in building that needless Bank of Ghana offices? $250 million. Now, you think that these guys are dumb, that they will come spend money for the purposes of exploration, when they didn't have some information that the possibility of they getting the minerals, the lithium in Ghana was high. Nobody would do exploration with that in a vacuum. For exploration to be done, where monies are spent for that purposes, they would have done some soil scientific studies. A lot of things would have been done to ascertain that yes, there is the possibility, at least 60-70% chance of you getting this particular mineral here, for which reason you would spend money to invest money to do the exploration. So, ab initio, the fact that the people came to do that would have told us that the chances of we getting lithium there was very high. In any case, assuming we didn't even know, could it have been a very bad decision to spend the taxpayers' money to do exploration, to determine whether we can have lithium there or not? My answer is that we could have done that. And if we did so, and we didn't even find lithium, that wouldn't have been described as a bad investment. Because we've seen this with the other minerals and even oil. We've seen that. The people came because we felt that we didn't have the money to do so, so we won't do it. some have done that and gave us outrageous royalties or percentages of sharing in terms of the value that we get from this mineral or these resources. So I think that if we thought strategically and based on the scientific studies that were done in that area, and mind you, those scientific studies I don't think were done entirely by those who are now signing this contract. I believe that our scientists, our geologists would have been involved. We would have had at least a scintilla of idea that the possibility of we getting lithium in Ghana on that particular area would have been very high. And therefore, we could have spent our own money to invest. When we are spending money needlessly, investing in areas that we do not need to spend money to. One, so the $250 million that they are investing into this, for which reason they are giving us this insults as a percentage of negotiation with regards to royalties, which the minister rather dumbly expects us to praise this government. Couldn't we have indeed invested our own money for the purposes of saying? Another point that I think is worthy of mentioning is that the minister quickly says, look at the arrangement that is done in Mali. Look at the arrangement that is done in Equatorial Guinea. Look at the arrangement that is done. Look at the percentages of royalties those countries are getting. And therefore, with this arrangement, I think it's better. Within the continent or the sub-region, ours is the best. So let's accept it. Why is it that you have military takeovers in those countries? You have military takeovers in those countries because they have been subjugated, both politically and economically, by France for several decades. And therefore, they realize that the kind of arrangement they have had with France as so-called independent sovereign states, when everybody knows that most of these Francophone African countries are just independent on paper. But in actual fact, their economic lives and conditions are determined by Paris. Those people, the reasons why you have this unfortunate truncation of democratic rules in those countries is because of some of these arrangements. So the minister could have looked for a different example. And the reason why he didn't go to look at the examples in Latin America and other areas is because the arrangements are better. Like I told you in Chile, where they have marginal adjustment in terms of what? The royalties that they pay. Couldn't we have done that? And why is it that it escaped this minister entirely to trigger that particular aspect of the same law, for which reason this royalties is being put? So I think that is problematic. And there was a rush. And the reason why I say there was a rush, and that rush in taking a decision indeed opens room for much suspicion. What is the rush? If you look at the memorandum of understanding, the advice that was given to the minister in terms of the validity of this particular arrangement, and the contract that was entered into, I mean the memo of understanding, memo with regards to advice given to the minister as far as the validity and how good this arrangement is, and the lease document bear the same date. The same date. Why? My understanding and the little experience I have is that if there's an advice that is given to the minister on an issue such as this, the minister would have had a technical team to look at even that advice and see whether it was viable and whether indeed we could get an alternative. But the fact that that date, that particular advice bears, the same day the lease agreement is entered into, for me is worrying. Sena, you have a former Minister for Justice and Attorney General, and to be very honest, nobody is accusing anybody for engaging in anything. But there are a lot of reasons to believe or to suspect that there is the need for thorough thinking and investigation be done into this. You have the former Minister for Justice and the former Chief Justice.
Yes.
The former Chief Justice, in her statement, indicted the minister and the ministry. The statement she made at the IEA program, ostensibly saying that she believes that some people's pockets have been fatted. Pockets. And you think that such statement should go unchecked, uninvestigated? And that is why I want to use this medium to call on the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate the matter further. Because this is a former Chief Justice. And I don't want to believe that she could just be making such statement without any evidence. If she doesn't have any evidence, then she should be invited to tell us that I didn't have any evidence. But if she has evidence, it needs further investigation, because the work of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, one is to investigate corruption, most importantly political corruption. Now, if she's accusing some people, even though she didn't mention any name, she thinks that, look, some people are benefiting from this arrangement. It, by every intent and purposes, it needs some further investigation. And the only body to do that investigation, in my opinion, is the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So I would call on the Office of the Special Prosecutor to invite the former Chief Justice, invite the Minister for Lands, and those actors, as far as this arrangement is done, to appear before them and provide further and better particulars. If the former Chief Justice has any information, I think that the information should be given to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. More so, when the minister was asked about this accusation made against his person or the ministry, his only response is that, I'm not going to respond to it. The woman taught me, is it what law in school? And therefore, for her to make that statement, I think that if my integrity is attacked in a manner that it was attacked by the Office of the former Chief Justice, and I know that I'm clean, my response will go further. So if the minister clearly is unwilling to take any action against the former Chief Justice, I think that as citizens of these countries, whose taxes ensure the comfort of all these people, I think that the Office of the Special Prosecutor should take particular interest in this matter, because this is something that is going to create a lot of problems for us. Because more so, we don't know what quantity they have, what quantity of lithium we have in this country. Part of the arrangement is not even very clear as to if indeed there are other discoveries elsewhere in Ghana. Is it going to maybe a kind of a patent right, as we have in the arrangement with the bauxite, that when we have this discovery anywhere, the company that is the lead company, in this case the pioneer company for the purposes of the lithium, what will be the stake of those companies in it? I think that a lot of questions need answers, and those answers can only be provided if there is proper investigation into the matter. And that is why I call on the Office of the Special Prosecutor to take a particular interest in this matter.
Thank you. Thank you. Just about 3 messages. Alasan Hamdan in Yohini says, we are prepared to organize demo against Atlantic Lithium TV because government is trying to scam Ghanaians through this mining lease agreement despite serious issues raised by the industry players. Government is making sure they shortchange Ghanaians. 24-hour economy will prevent selling of our natural resources by providing incentive to businesses in order to pay more taxes to government and create sustainable jobs for Ghanaians. Francis Gordon is also joining us, says the oil in Ghana could not solve our problems economically. What will lithium do? If we do not do the right things as people, then our natural resources will not yield anything for Ghanaians. Sumani Hamza says, good morning, Sena. Your guest, more especially to the wonderful MP for Tamale Central. In fact, we love him so much. That's Sumani sending that one. Thank you very much. There's also Musa Abatwa, who says, Sena, I've taken the trouble to read the Lithium Deal and the discussion surrounding the issue. Those who are defending the lithium have questionable character. I called it Lithium Deal because it's another purpose vehicle set up to dupe the state. We are appealing to our parliamentarians to shoot it down and save the country. Another PDS scam. Hashtag drop the lithium now. That is coming from Musa Batwa. Peter Lamangwamano wants me to know that he's watching live. Good morning to you. Okay, there are more messages. Okay, this is Akwete Roberts, who is also talking about this matter. Says, good morning. This government should leave the lithium in the soil for us and look for reasonable, sensible, and competent persons to come and get the job done. This, I haven't heard this in a while. Idoncarism. Corrupt MPP government will achieve nothing for Ghanaians. Real Ghana is joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Sena, lithium deal must be cancelled immediately. Akufo-Addo and the corrupt Achi Mafia has a cut in the 4.4%. Okay. This is ridiculous. That's why the government is defending the deal vigorously. NDC and CSOs and Ghanaians should be allowed to denounce this deal. MPP is so corrupt, he says. We must change our mining laws in order to get improved deal. When we can't get an improved deal, then the mineral should remain there. Deals for extraction of our mineral resources have not benefited us as a people in any way. We have everything, but when we want to construct roads, we go for foreign loans. We are supposed to use proceeds of our natural resources to develop this country. Something must be wrong with us. In my opinion, there must be a change going forward. Real Ghana, thank you very much for that message. Matthew Paddy thinks this is pure Ejapa deal in disguise. That's Matthew Paddy. And Dennis Yakwete says, from the little I heard, it is better the lithium remains untouched with the said deal. I am more than certain that given the situation Ghana finds herself in at the moment, and with existing unfavorable deals with our exploited resources, if it were US, they would have called for renegotiation of all existing agreements to reset the country, or even nationalize those exploitative multinational companies. But here we are tickling ourselves with an increase of 5% in royalty to 10%, when we should be talking about service agreement or produce and share agreement, or better still, provide support to local investors to venture into this new area. Something is certainly wrong with some of our contemporary political leaders. And then Lengi Chawinate says, okay, he's talking about something. Thank you very much for the messages. Keep them coming, and I'll keep going through them. Lawyer.
Yeah, so let me take this opportunity to wish you good morning. It's been a long time since we met. Wish my esteemed colleagues here a good morning too. It's always a pleasure to be on the show, to have discussions that borders on national interest with them. And then finally to wish your lovely viewers a good morning, and hopefully we can have a very dispassionate discussion on this little issue that borders on its impact on our economy. I think the issue under consideration is essentially what's the import of this lithium deal for the future of this country. Personally, I want to look at it from two viewpoints. Okay. The first viewpoint is the deal itself, as in the lithium deal itself, and secondly, its impact on the general economy, especially what strategies, what policies are government proposing to put in place that would help fight against what we call the Dutch disease that usually accompanies such booms in the economy, especially taking into consideration the fact that there has been a gold boom in this country, there has been an oil boom in this country, and we all agree that it has not led to the overall transformation of the economy of Ghana. Now, concerning the deal, I think an analysis of the deal has to be looked at various aspects of the deal. First of all, in terms of the royalty issue, I think that's gained most attention. My colleague here, he doesn't like to be called Honorable. I'll call him Honorable. Honorable Mutala, I think, did a very great job in the submission and brought up a certain issue, and I think that issue needs to be considered critically. The issue of the context in which the minister put why they give what's called Atlantic people such a fantastic deal, being that they have spent money in the what's called exploration, and because of that, he thought that it was justified that they gave them that deal without opening for any tender, without opening any auction, without allowing for anything that would have at least brought about some competition with them who explores, and then put us in a stronger negotiation position than if we were just dealing with the Atlantic people. I think I've read a number of commentaries on the issue. Esteemed professors Fuichi Kata, Bryce Simmons, expose with the CSOs and certain issues I think have been raised. The first issue has to do with the dishonesties surrounding some of the information that we are being told. One is the fact that it's not true from Bryce Simmons. They claim that no work at all had been done on lithium, and that the land people just woke up one day and said, listen, let's go to Ghana and try and see if there's any lithium there. According to what Bryce Simmons' argument, way back in the 60s, there was clear evidence that there was lithium in Ghana. What he didn't know was the quantity, the quality, and all. Indeed, a Ghanaian professor from, according to Bryce Simmons, one Alexandria Youngson also, did some great job on lithium. So essentially, Ghana, in one way or the other, had invested in investigation as to whether or not there was lithium here. And it is on the basis of that, in fact, indeed, Bryce Simmons is saying that the Alhaji people made reference to research work that had been done as the basis for which they undertook that project. So if that's the case, I think the minister can't justify, or he cannot sustain the argument that because of the risks Alhaji guys took, it would justify the kind of deal we'll give them. Also, I've realized that a lot of, or little or no noise has been made in terms of the fiscal regime that we are granting the Alhaji guys in terms of the tax regimes. Because when you listen to Free Chikata, he made a forceful argument that what we are going to benefit was in terms of royalties, in terms of equity, in terms of potentially shares that will be floated, but also essentially in terms of what the government stands to gain from tax revenue. You understand? Now, from what the CEOs are saying, there's a tax holiday, a 10-year tax holiday being afforded to the company. Now, if that's the case, then essentially it's a dash. You understand? If that's the case, essentially it's a dash. Also, I understand Ghana is making very serious concessions in terms of the electricity tariff regime being offered them. That they are going to be giving, they'll be paying about 30 to 40% of what the regular would have paid. So Ghana is taking huge, or making a huge concession also in terms of what we will stand to gain in terms of the tariffs and all, because they are within the free zone in Cleveland, so they are enjoying all the benefits that comes with having a business within the free zones a company zone. Now the issue is, if indeed, and like was done really well by my colleague here, the value of lithium is so high, obviously the whole world is, as in so much noise has been made about climate change and the need for us to transition from fossil into green, clean energy. You understand? Not to talk about the huge potential, the huge market that the EVs can give to lithium. We're talking about all these mobile phones, what's called Apples, and their reliance on lithium. Also the fact that when it comes to the use of solar energy, one of the critical components of is a reliance on lithium batteries. Now, if that's the case, there's a huge demand for lithium. Lithium is the white gold. The value of lithium is almost about 4 times that of gold. Then why are we in a rush to give a deal that more or less surrenders all the advantages that we have in terms of the negotiations? Essentially, we are doing a deal that clearly, you cannot justify why we have royalties of 10%, the kind of equity region that we have. Take into consideration the fact that we are even ready to cede all the revenues we can make in terms of tax, in terms of the other services that we are rendering to them. For me, it doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all, and I think that Parliament should at least take advantage of the powers of the world and do something about this deal. We will thank God that the deal needs their approval, and that the parliamentarians, they should understand that they do not represent their parties there. They represent the people of Ghana in their various constituencies, and take a decision that's in the best interest of the country. Because clearly, for me, I think the executive is not or is not seizing advantage of all the benefits that affords us as in terms of where we stand at the negotiation table, and is entering into a deal that really clearly is not in the best interest of Ghanaians. Probably the Chief Justice may not have any evidence, but sometimes certain actions, certain decisions take can gender a level of suspicion as to the propriety or not of why you are taking certain decisions. And it is very critical, especially when you consider what the natural consequence of this boom on our economy. Because this is not the first time there is a boom or there is a discovery of natural resources. History has told us that in your countries where there has been these booms, there was a gold boom in the 70s, there was the oil boom. Ghana itself had an oil boom in the 2000s. We failed to take advantage of all the lessons that we could have learned from how other countries handled their oil boom and the sort of curse that those booms had on their economies. Because this boom would naturally bring some shakeups into the structure of our economy, and that would require that government deliberately puts in place policies and strategies that can avert the negatives of those shakeups. But it's called the Dutch disease. And then the principle there is that when there's a boom, a lot of investments, first of all, tend to go towards the boom as against your traded goods in transaction, your manufacturing sector, and then your non-tradable goods sector, that's your service sector. And that has a rippling effect of course, what you call a resource movement. So the talents in the country tend to shift from these sectors and go into the sector of the boom. So in this case, lithium. You understand? 2, in terms of how government spends its resources, there must be a strategy that will ensure that in the way the resources are spent, it does not kill the manufacturing sector. Because you see, if there is one factor we cannot contest, is the fact that countries that have developed, countries that have economies that are transformed, have done so not on the back of their natural resources. Because a country like Singapore, what natural resources do Singapore have? You take even America. America has large reserves of lithium, large resources of oil and gold. But America has been transformed not on the back of those resources. You take China, the massive transformation that China has undertaken is not on the back of their natural resources. You can go on and on and on. The fact remains that countries that have been transformed have done so on the back of a massive industrialization agenda, their manufacturing sector. You understand? Countries that have been transformed because their governments have deliberately put in place institutional support to support entrepreneurship, the private sector, the small and medium scale enterprises. Countries that have been transformed have found ways of having sustained inflows of revenues. Well, you come to Ghana and we have a situation where one of the biggest challenges we are facing is our inability of governments to rake in revenues, because our economy is largely informal. Now, so this boom is coming, which is going to shake the very structure of our economy. It's going to bring imbalances in our economy. There's a potential of we being inflicted with what we call the Dutch disease, and what is done to we have a record of this Dutch disease because see when usually, and I think this thing happened after the oil boom, instead of we spending our revenues prudently, government on the back of the increase in revenue, especially in Ghana here, and I took imprudent borrowing spree. I understand. To what extent that we all spoke about the Heritage Fund and all. I think the Heritage Fund has been secretarized. Also, all the funds have been so. The fact is, government must tell Ghanaians. It must make a strong case to Ghanaians that what strategies, what policies are they putting in place? You understand? And not just even and demonstrate a clear commitment. Are they putting in place that will ensure that we do not suffer from the Dutch disease or the curse of what you call the resource curse as a result of this boom. Because over the past few weeks, we talk about the 24-hour economy. We ought to be talking more about the great transformational plan. Programs whose focus is in triggering or putting in place policies that will ensure that productivity is increased, jobs are created, and real prosperity is created for the people of Ghana. I mean, those are the issues. Those are the issues. And beyond our argument and our holding government to ransom on the weakness of the deal they are presenting to us, we must also demand from government that they persuade Ghanaians, they convince us. I hope when they come to Parliament, those issues are raised. What strategies are they going to put in place to ensure that the mistakes we did with oil boom, the mistakes we've done with the gold boom in Ghana, will not be repeated with the lithium boom? Because you cannot understand why a country with the quantity of gold we have, a country with the oil we have, a country with the massive human resources available to us, can be at a stage where we are having haircuts, can be at a stage where what's called the general principle in finance that government bonds are the safest bonds. In Ghana right now, government bonds are the most dangerous bonds. That's now what strategies are we going to put in place to ensure that this boom does not lead to another imprudent or reckless borrowing spree? That this boom does not lead us to what's called an investment into a lot of white elephants. That is a strategy that will ensure that this boom does not dwindle our manufacturing sector. Already do we even have a very strong one. And that government focus at industrialization is not sacrificed because of this boom. These are issues that I wish we'll discuss more, and I look forward to Parliament in really interrogating the executive on them, so that the issue shouldn't just be about the deal or how strong or advantageous the deal is to us, but also what strategies are they putting in place to ensure that we do not suffer from the dark disease. Because other than that, then to answer your question, based on what I saw, what we've seen with the oil boom, what we've seen with the gold boom, then this lithium deal would rather lead to the impoverishment of the people of Ghana rather than be a spark that will bring about what's called the prosperity boom that we need. Maybe they can look at countries like Norway, they can look at countries like Botswana, at Indonesia, at what strategies they put in place to ensure that they were not infected with the Dutch disease. Because if we do not do that, then for me, there's really no excitement about this lithium deal. Also, let me add shortly that it's quite disappointing that once again, where we discovered some natural resources, our focus is on handing them over to foreign entities. It's like when we are taking these decisions, our interest is never about Ghana. Or is it the case that we do not have faith in the people of Ghana? Well, I remember when I was discussing with the Don, as in, can't government find a way? And you see, it's not about people in government themselves creating entities too, but find a way of causing a sort of a Ghanaian-led consortium to be formed that would lead to the exploitation of this resource. Because like for us, as in this business of people, foreigners coming to take our resources away in raw forms, has not inured to our benefit, and it will not inure to our benefit. And probably that was the reason why the former chief justice, was considering other vehicles apart from the concession, service agreement, and joint venture. Because I'm sure her concern was, why is the case that anytime you have any resources, which really, when you read our constitution and you read one of the UN charter that said that the natural resources of a country, every nation has the sovereign right to its natural resources, and that's the basis of investment law or of investment in general. Anytime we have a resource, a natural resource, and one as valuable as lithium, our first consideration is to get foreigners to come and take everything away without any recourse to. But I believe that there are Ghanaian businessmen who could have invested that 250 million these people are investing. And so Yes, I support the call for the investigations to be had, but also I'll call on Parliament to really ask critical questions. And I'll commend Ghanaians for at least the extent to which they are demanding accountability. We can do more, but certainly we should interrogate the deal, not just on the deal itself, but also on the overall impact it can have on the economy of Ghana.
Thank you.
We'll have to ratify
Yes.
the deal. I just hope that we won't behave the way we have behaved in previous. No, honestly, and I say this with all the seriousness, that I just hope that, and I'm not absolving myself, we will not behave the way we have behaved in other deals. It's just completely annoying.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll come to the Don from Odododio, and of course you're talking about value and the involvement of money. I'll read to you the Nigerian example. They've also had discovered high-grade lithium in Nigeria, but what are they doing? There are those who suggest that this kind of discussion should have been ignited before we go into the agreement. That we should not be discussing the agreement, we should be discussing the discovery and what we do with it. Yeah. Anyway, there's Isaac Salifu who says that a Ghanaian politician knows how to steal from his own people and tend to mock them. This lithium robbery, in my opinion, is that government has failed to listen to the good voices. Then the community should resist it when the company comes to mind. That is Isaac Salifu who's joining us. Thank you very much, Isaac. Okay, this is an early one on the topic of the special prosecutor. For the special prosecutor to be free with his work, he should be elected by the people of Ghana, but not the president, not appointed by the president. Else, he will try to influence him, the special prosecutor. There's, I think I'm going to Rio GH's comment. This is Atta Ion from who says, I have a question for. Okay, he has some other issues. Thank you very much, Atta, for that message. There's this one which says, the MPP-led government only celebrates mediocrity and tout themselves of having the men and the best managers of the economy, as usually espoused by the incompetent Dr. Bawumia, only for them to throw this country's economy into an unprecedented mess. The minister should not think that no one else can get better deal for Ghana as far as the lithium arrangement is concerned than what he claims to have gotten. They should stop worrying Ghanaians with their incompetence. We are tired of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led incompetent government. Ghana will definitely get back again after they are booted out of power in 2024. Sami sent that from the OT region. Thank you. Okay. Okay, this one only says he wants to know the minister responsible for this. Actually, this falls under the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. That's Mr. Samuel Abujinapo, who is in charge of that ministry. This is from Captain Mantuga from Ada East, who says, Sena, this particular government is not helping this country at all. Our minister and the president of Ghana should know that they didn't vote for themselves, rather the people of Ghana voted for them. Why can't they listen to the people they claim they love so much? Or is for their benefits that they are doing these things? Nanado, please listen to the people of Ghana. You didn't vote for yourself. Why? Why all this? Why are you giving us heart attack? Captain, thank you very much for that message. And then let me do this last one, and then I'll read just a short paragraph from the Nigeria matter. It says, please, NDC always have problems with good initiatives. They are too negative. Ghanaians should think about these greedy politicians. I support the MPP free senior high school for the poor. Thank you for the opportunity. That's Osman from Tamale Central. Osman, thank you for your contribution. Okay, so this is from Nigeria, and the story is that Elon Musk suspects Nigeria has the minerals needed to build the lithium batteries that power his electric vehicles. Last year, Tesla, a Musk-owned company, began pursuing Nigeria's lithium deposit. However, Tesla backed away when Nigeria's Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Olamilekan Adegbite, rebuffed its initial approach. Adegbite believed that Tesla's plan conflicted with the government's strategy of requiring foreign companies to process strategic minerals in country before exports. So Nigeria says, process it. We want to build an industry around it. If you won't agree, we won't let you mine it. Done.
Sena, let me greet Comrade Chrissy Pratt, Comrade Mutala, and yellow butterfly. I will also greet the people of Ododo Jodo as usual. On this issue, I think we must look at lithium itself and what it really stands for. And lithium, as we speak, has become the new gold. The only advantage gold has over lithium is that gold is accepted as a currency, and its sellability over time is not diminished. After you use lithium for whatever purpose you have used it for, it becomes even a challenge in terms of disposing it off, because it's a bit lethal, it's dangerous if not disposed well. This is a president who touted so well how we have run a Georgesburg economy till date. And for that matter, he was coming in to change the scenario, and he had a massive vote of the people of Ghana. He has, after being elected, perpetuated more than what Georgesburg did. Rightly said, like the Nigerian experience, and you mentioned Elon Musk, yes. This is a guy who's putting up a gigafactory that is looking at a future sustainable energy that will not depend on fossil fuel. And that is where the world is tilting towards, where we want to eliminate the fossil fuel because of the challenges it brings to us and all that. Now, when we come back home, I want to ask few questions in terms of what the minister had said. Was the exploration based on open books? And what I mean by open books is that if a country wants to give such an asset to a private sector, whether foreign or local, you should be interested in how the exploration was done and the cost of the exploration. And therefore, we do what we call the open books, where if you have to buy assets, employ this person, engage any form of machinery, you would have to do it in an open book form, where I know where you are getting it from, the cost of the asset, and all that. Was that done? It wasn't. This was not based on any open books. If so, I want the minister to bring us as part of the books, to show us, line by line, how they have arrived at the cost of exploration, because it matters a lot. Today, after they have started, they've done the exploration and they are mining, one of the things allowed to be reduced out of their revenue or adjusted out of their revenue is the exploration cost, capital allowance, and all that. And yet you might get your 10% and get nothing when it comes to the taxes. So yes, we will say 10%. But is that the 10%, is the 10% the only thing needed? If that is the case, then the lithium should stay buried under the ground. The other bit of it is that at this stage and age, for us to give away a strategic asset such as lithium to a foreign company to mine without any Ghanaian ownership is elementary, is backward, and unacceptable. Because, come to think of it, are you saying that the cost of exploration cannot be found within Ghana, in Africa, and around the globe by any Ghanaian consortium? and turn around and sell it to the people of Ghana to buy into it. And make our stock exchange more attractive than it is today. Is that what we are saying? I can bet you that this whole lithium deal is nothing but to acquire more debt. We want to show the prospect of having a new revenue line in our books and use that as a justification to go out there and borrow. My brother was using gold boom, oil boom. In fact, there has never been any boom in Ghana when it comes to our minerals. We have always created a revenue line with these minerals, shop around, borrowed extensively, and use that as securitization for our debt. That is all we have done. So I will not be surprised that we'll start projecting 10% of what we expect to get, go out there and create a better debt to GDP position because new revenues are coming in, push up the GDP projected, and go out there and borrow more. Look, all these 10%, 5% talk amounts to nothing for me. If at the end of the day, the top echelon of those mines, in terms of personnel, are not going to be Ghanaian, that there are no factories that will add value to the raw ore that will be produced, then it is no for me. I believe that we have gotten to a place in time where exploration has become easier. I was involved in an exploration of gold, and all the geologists would have done was to pay for the satellites to do the work. Yes, we don't have that technology, but if individuals in Ghana will be able to afford to pay for such explorations, which is more accurate, then no one should tell me that he brought some people from Australia to do exploration that we Ghanaian cannot do, when in fact there is lithium deposit within Accra, within Central Region and Volta Region, and that was known way before today. Way before today. So what are we talking about? For me, again, when we come to the revenues, have we looked and projected their expenditure when they start mining? What costs they will bury us under? What is allowed and what is not allowed? Because the exploration of lithium is very different from the exploration of gold, where you use cyanide and other things to do the separation. In this case, you use magnets to do the separation and all that. Have we looked at all the uses of lithium and have decided that the royalties we want to take it in kind and not in cash? Without doing all this, we have settled on cash already. So we are saying we will not need the lithium. Meanwhile, the sustainability of our energy depends on lithium. We want to move towards renewable energy. And one of the things is either we do it online or offline. If we have to do it offline, then we need batteries. VRA has conducted a lot of projects in terms of solar. All these ones are online. What it means is that once you produce, it has to go through the lines. We are not storing any. So, is the royalties in kind? Because we know one day we will grow the capacity to develop our own lithium-ion batteries. Or we have concluded already from today that we will not need it, and therefore we want cash for it. I mean, what is it that we are people who have not studied, who have not learned, who have not looked at other examples, or we are just not interested? All we want is to fill our pockets. This can only come from a group of people whose pockets are filled. This is not in the interest of the Ghanaian. This cannot be in the interest of the Ghanaian. Lithium is the future, and energy is going to be more difficult producing in the future. And therefore, if you have such an asset, you should do everything possible to ensure that the future will have a good benefit of these assets. Production, the growth we need, everything we are crying for today will largely depend on energy and availability of energy. More so, how competitive the price of energy will be. And therefore, you cannot joke with such an asset. We cannot give it away like we have given away our gold and our bauxite and all that. No, we can't do that to lithium. And mind you, when you buy gold and you use it for a chain, a ring, and whatever, tomorrow you can go out there and use that same gold for something else or even sell. Lithium, after you use it for whatever purpose, you cannot bring it back to life again. And therefore we should be careful how we give out easily such minerals, because it is so strategic to play with it, with the kind of minds around it. I don't see the minister as somebody capable enough to even deal with this issue. I don't see him as such. From everything he has said, he has shown me he is not that deep. The conversation we are engaging in has not been elevated. It has been at the elementary stage, as if we are going to mine sand or gravels. That is not what we are going to mine. This is lithium. And somebody needs to wake up and understand what it means to have lithium. All the armored plate vehicles you see contains lithium. So what are we doing? Giving it off for pittance. It's very sad, and I don't think this should be accepted. Well, it will come down to our parliament at the end of the day. These are our representatives. They should be speaking for us. They should be protecting the interests of the Ghanaian who put them there. And I pray they would, for one, and this time, stand up for this country and make sure such a strategic asset is protected and not given away easily as it's been given away. Thank you, Sena.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Don. And take that from somebody who has been investing into renewable energy himself and has a strong interest in it. And I'll come to Uncle Kwesi because I wonder what he thinks about this. He's been one of those who's been talking consistently about how we treated our oil, how we treated our gold, whether we are good students of history, and whether he sees a change in perhaps the discussion we are having, deeper thinking. Nasir Mohammed says, I agree with the panelists that this has been rushed for parochial reasons, not patriotic ones. I feel in my blood and bones that after the Japadio, Jabako, these people are to know better. I hope are to know good. Okay. And I hope and pray that our parliament will not let us down. Can we trust them? Francis Gordon says, we are great minds, but are we thinking alike? The future of our lithium is not very favorable. It is a giveaway. Anum Yao says the agreement hurts, and it hurts so bad that it draws tears from the soul. Goy Lononya says, unfortunately for our democracy, all the good people who want to sincerely do everything for Ghana to develop are in the NDC, and all the bars who want to destroy Ghana are in the MPP. Very interesting. Bawa Henry says, good morning, Alhaji and Alhaji. I'm watching you live from Mansa Datano. I hope I got that right. Okay, he is extending greetings to Dr. Thomas Sanabaya. Good morning to him. There's Corey Kuzimba CK Milanian, who says Ghanaians should kick against the lithium deal and wait for a visionary leader who will invest in research into the application process of the chemical element and manufacture the lithium battery. Jafar Aboa is also joining us. Good morning to Eric Okusapen, who says good morning. From President, agreements that we signed with multinational corporations, we had sold our natural resources for pittance due to some greedy politicians and technocrats within the civil service. Constitutional mandate is needed for every agreement to be put before Parliament for debate to determine its outcomes before it is signed by any ruling government. We need an entrenched clause with a bite. Charlie Slim says, why are the people in a rush to sign this agreement? Can't we take time and leave it for the future? Said Isaka says, and the lithium contract should be given to a Ghanaian contractor such as Ibrahim Mahama. Alex Alhaji says, I'm disappointed in this 137 Parliament because our hope is that it will defend citizens and put the government on its toes. Nothing is happening. Rather, all hardship bills are being passed. Okay, Patrick Kubasika, your history it's not the Chief Justice, it was Madam Gloria Kufu, who was an Attorney General. Okay, so those are some of the messages you're sending to me on this. Let me read. Kipo Elijah, who sent this in here, says they have eaten up the present and are patiently working to mortgage our future through our natural resources. The lithium deal needs to be relooked. Kudos to Mutala. Thank you very much for that message. Positive change in Medina. Ghana's economy is in junk state. No amount of political preaching or political deliverance can bring it back to life. The most discredited vice president of our time, Dr. Bawumia, has retired the progress of this country. Thank you for sending in that message. Mr. Brat.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm struck by the arguments and debates that are going on. And they are so pedestrian, it's unbelievable. So very pedestrian that it's unbelievable. A lot of the discussion and argument has focused on the percentage of royalty we are getting. That is meaningless gibberish. And you find big lawyers, so-called experts, leading politicians and so on, arguing about the percentage of royalty. Look, only recently, in Niger, the French were paying Niger 5% royalty for their uranium. So the people of Niger started agitation over years. The French finally agreed to increase the royalty to 12.5%. Since Niger got 12.5% royalty, the actual amount of money they receive for their uranium is less than when they had 5% royalty. Yes, check. So the percentage of royalty It doesn't mean anything. There is something else. The Don spoke about open book and so on. If you don't know, if you don't have a mechanism for knowing quantities that are extracted and exported and so on, if you don't have this open book arrangement, they will pay you anything for royalty, irrespective of the percentage you have agreed upon. And the example of Niger should open our eyes to this nonsensical argument about level of royalty. It doesn't make any sense at all. You understand? That's the first thing. Now, secondly, second important fact, every mining activity does destroy the environment. Okay? Every mining activity does destroy the environment. Even if you use the best methods in extraction and so on, something is destroyed. All these debates, what studies have we done to determine the impact of lithium mining on the environment? What arrangements have we made to ensure that that impact of lithium extraction would not destroy us, would not spread diseases, would not kill fishes and so on? What studies have we done? That's a critical question. And we are not talking about the degradation of the environment. We are not doing a cost-benefit analysis with regard to the degradation of the environment. We are talking nonsense. Absolute nonsense. That's what we are talking. Now, my brother, there are so many factors that we need to consider. Lithium is a resource that is very, very key in energy projections. Okay? All this talk about movement from fossil fuels and so on. Lithium is center of it. What kind of energy policy do we have? And how does the extraction of lithium feature in that energy policy? Do we have an energy policy which takes account of the role of lithium in realizing the objectives of that policy? We are not talking about that. Can you imagine? And then I listen to radio and say, oh, so and so is an expert. Your expertise, excuse my language, my fault. As if you're not discussing these issues. What is the value of your expertise? Over the years, we've been bamboozled by expertise and change of degrees and so on. And look at where we are. And we are still being bamboozled by expertise and change of degrees and so on. We are not living where we are today. Look, lithium is such a strategic resource. And fortunately for us, Ghana is only one of 21 countries which have proven lithium deposit. The whole world, only 21 countries have proven lithium deposits. What a fortune! What a fortune! But unlike what Comrade Mutala said, my information is different from his. Of the 21 countries, my information is that Ghana has the least deposit.
Yeah, they're talking about the extraction, what is projected.
Yeah, but we have the least.
In terms of the
Okay. Now, Sena, lithium is a non-renewable resource. That's also an important factor. It's a non-renewable resource. So if you go into the ground and you take it out and you send it outside, it's gone forever. It's like diamond, it's like gold, it's like oil, it's like gas. It's a non-renewable resource. So you dig it, you take it out, it's gone forever. Now, one of the questions I've been posing over the years is simply this. Today, look at Ghana, look at Africa. We have all of these resources. And in spite of the fact that we have all of these resources, we are immersed in deep poverty. We can't run our schools. We have huge budgetary deficits. Our housing stock is not sufficient. Social services are not available to our people. And we have enormous natural resources today. Even as we have these minerals embedded in our soil, look at where we are. Now just imagine 50 years later, 100 years later, 150 years later, when we have taken all these non-renewable resources from our soil and sent them outside, what will be our fate? Because at some point, these resources will finish. When they finish, what will be our fate? Even now that we have them, look at the poverty into which we have been thrust. This is how visionary leaders think. This is how experts who love their country think. This is how a people who aspire for development ought to be thinking. What happens 50 years later? What happens 100 years later? What happens 150 years later? This is how we are supposed to be thinking. Not calculating the percentage of royalties. You understand? So this is a very important part, or ought to be a very important part of the discussion and debate. Now, there's something which I cannot understand. Anytime we find any mineral anywhere in our soil, our attitude is to go and take it out and sell. Rush, take it out, sell. That's all we do. Take it out and sell. Why should we take everything out of our soils and sell? Especially when those who indicate or force us or argue that we should take it out and sell argue that we don't have favorable conditions for extracting maximum benefits. Now, if you don't have favorable conditions for extracting maximum benefit, why don't you leave it in the soil? You see the Ochihini, Osajifu Amwetia Ofuripenyi. A couple of years ago, he made a statement, a very sensible statement, which has guided me in my discussion and assessment of all of these deals. And he was talking about gold. And what he said was that, look, gold, it doesn't rust. It won't rust. It won't decay. So if you are not ready to take it out today, leave it in the soil. You can take it out 200 years later and it will not rot, it will not decay. Why is it that anything we find in our soil, we are rushing to take it out and to sell it? Is that sensible? I cannot believe it. You understand? Now, one other problem, Sena, is this. In discussing whether or not the terms of this agreement are favorable or not favorable and so on, we focus attention on royalty and leave all other variables which are important. And the Dawn mentioned some of them. You have royalties, you have taxes, and you have other things that can become beneficial. If you go and give a company 10 years tax holiday and you collect 10% royalties, you must be deducting the value of 10 years tax holiday from the royalties in order to get a real picture. So you give them tax holiday and you take 10. You can actually take 50% royalty and give them concessions which take away from the royalty. Comrade Butala spoke about another thing which is very important. How much are they going to pay for the electricity that they use? Because they're going to use electricity to extract the mineral. So if you give them concessions on tariffs, electricity tariffs and so on, you ought to be taking that from the royalty. Unbelievable. The thing which has shocked me the most is that we are going to engage in lithium extraction as a free zone activity.
Yes.
Hey, Ghana. Unbelievable. Free zone activity. We are going to dig minerals from the soil and it's considered a free zone activity. I can't believe this. Sena, there's no way I can understand this. There are so many things that we ought to bring into the equation. So many things that we ought to bring into the equation. Now listen. Understand that Tesla is coming to Ghana. Tesla is coming to Ghana to come and talk to our officials and so on about the lithium we have and its possible exploitation and what role they may play in it. Why do you think that Tesla is coming to Ghana? They're coming so that they can maximize their profits. They are coming so that they can fatten their bank accounts. All the multinational corporations do is to exploit all possible avenues for fattening their bank accounts of their shareholders. So if Tesla is coming here, Tesla is not coming here because they are in love with the people of Ghana. And this thing about foreign investment, whatever it is, foreign investment, if you break it down, properly, if you use your gumption to analyze it, if you use your brain power to analyze it, do you know the proper definition of foreign investment? It's like a bait. You understand? When we used to do fishing in the Alhaji Sea, we used to do fishing in the Alhaji Sea. Have this long rope with a hook at the end and a stick that you used to, pull the fish out of the water and so on. We look for worms, which we don't eat. Worms which are useless on their own. Their only value in that fishing exercise is that they are able to bring fish out of the water. So you put the worm at the end of the hook and throw it into the water, and the fishes come rushing to eat the worms. And then the hook gets them in the neck or somewhere, we pull them out. Foreign investment is like the bait. Foreign investment comes into your economy in order to take more money out. It is not a benevolent action. It's a bait designed to take your resources for free. That is what it is, nothing more. Just break it down to common sense. Foreign investment is just a bait. And our leaders, the kinds of leaders we have in Africa today, they are swallowing this bait, this bait. How do they say it? Hook, Nile, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker. They are all busy in the water swallowing the bait. When the foreign investor brings resources into your country, that foreign investor takes more than what he brought into your country. It is not a gift. Okay? So sensible leaders, visionary leaders and so on, recognize the fact that this is a bait. They swallow it all right, but they swallow it in such a manner, sometimes you put the bait at the end of the hook, and some of the fishes, the smart ones, they take the bait and they don't get hooked. That is what we ought to be doing. In this particular exercise of lithium extraction, Let us agree that we don't have the initial investment, and that is even a faulty argument. Let us agree that we don't have expertise. Let us agree that we don't have the equipment, and so let us make those concessions, okay? What kind of arrangement are we making in order to ensure that this extraction will be beneficial for the people of Ghana? The only sensible thing is to ensure that the extraction of the resource has both backward and forward linkages. That's the only sensible thing. Yes, they want to come and mine the lithium. Fine, come and mine the lithium. But if you mine the lithium, you are not taking it outside Ghana. The mining of the lithium is coupled with the production of batteries and all other things that lithium can produce inside Ghana. That is the policy our own neighbor Nigeria has adopted. Are we saying that Nigerian politicians are much smarter than Ghanaian politicians? So you do it in such a way that you have both the forward and backward linkages, backward and forward linkages and so on. So that rather than Ghana exporting raw lithium, we export finished products from lithium. Now, I am not an expert and I do not pretend to be an expert, okay? All I'm doing is using my gumption, common sense, to analyze everything that is being said. Sena, is that not possible? That is possible. So, come and establish a factory, come and establish a plant that processes the lithium. At the end of the day, when we finish, when we're exporting batteries and other things, you take 70% and give us 30%. You take 80% and give us 20%. Is that not more beneficial to the Ghanaian economy than the arrangement we are discussing now? Then, Sena, this one nearly killed me. I was hearing about lithium lease agreement and so on. I hadn't seen the agreement. It was on Wednesday this week that I got a copy of the agreement from Dr. Randy Abbey. And Massa, I was shocked. Because all the discussion is on lithium. That lease agreement is not about lithium alone. It's about all minerals in the area. If I'm lying, tell me. The agreement says that in the process of mining for lithium, if we find any other mineral in the area, gold, diamond, manganese, whatever, this company will have, what do they call it in law? First right. Right of refusal. Exactly. First right of refusal. So we are not just talking about lithium, we are talking about all possible minerals which are embedded in those soils, in the Awoya area. Now, why do you think that a foreign company will come and sign an agreement and insist that you should put in the agreement that they are also entitled to mine for all other minerals in the area if they haven't seen something? They put that in the agreement because they have seen something beyond lithium. Yeah. And our officials are falling over themselves and so on. That discovery actually killed me. That was the... What? It's not just about lithium, it's about so many other resources and so on. And then there is something else. Apart from the fact that it covers all other minerals and how to exploit them and so on. There is something else which is absolutely interesting. One, this lithium, it is not the property of the president. No. This lithium is not the property of the chief executive of the Minerals Commission. Okay. It is not the property of the minister. It is not even the property of our parliamentarians. This lithium belongs to all the people of Ghana in their collective. Okay? The people of Ghana own this lithium. And then we get to a stage where they say, oh, all of you who have not trained as lawyers, who have not chaired the Minerals Commission before and so on, you can't speak on it. Who should speak on it? That thing belongs to us. And we say because we didn't go to Harvard School of Business, we have no right to speak on it. Because you went to Harvard School of Business, you're entitled to come and carry it away or give it out as a gift. What nonsense! Sena, what nonsense? Then we should leave the debate to the experts. If the mining starts and poisons our soil, the people who have defects, the people who will give birth to deformed children and so on, are not the people who went to Harvard School of Business.
Not at all.
They are the people in the local community, the Awoya area. They should have a louder voice than any expert from anywhere. Sena, when I was growing up, oranges from Obuasi were a speciality. They were sweet, they were attractive. Obuasi and Ka. Until sometime, I think in the 80s or so, I'm not sure about the year, when the Third World Network, Yao Graham and his people, did some studies and actually found that the level of arsenic in food grown in Obuasi is 3 times higher than the World Bank approved rates. Today, when you see oranges from Obuasi, they look the same, but they are poison. Poison. If you go to all of our mining areas, quite apart from the color of the rivers and waters which have changed, and so on, which people tend to look at and so on, you find that there are no fishes in the waters anymore. No fishes in the waters anymore. To the extent that today, Ghana, which is crisscrossed by all manner of rivers and so on, which is bordered on the south by the Atlantic Ocean, which has the largest man-made lake in the world, is an importer of fish. So when we are engaging with other multinational corporations and so on, and trying to exploit our resources, this is how we ought to think. And this point was made excellently in a paper which was prepared by Kofi Ansah and Fuichikata. The very first paragraph. If you read the very first paragraph, they say, look, people are apprehensive about this lithium deal because of how previous agreements were treated and crafted. We didn't benefit from previous agreements. They were crafted in such a way that we remained perpetual losers. And they say that the hesitation, the argument against this and so on, springs from our history. And they were right. You understand? They were right. Sena, what is happening is frightening. Frightening. Given the current institutions that we have, the structures that we have and so on, I would think that the only institution which comes close to legitimately exercising the sovereignty of our people is Parliament.
Okay.
And I say that cautiously. Because there are agreements that our parliaments have passed which clearly are an affront to the sovereignty of our people. And I cannot guarantee that this parliament will protect the sovereignty of our people which is vested in it. I cannot guarantee. That's why I'm very cautious. For example, this is a parliament which signed the impunity agreement to the United States of America. This is the parliament which signed the defense cooperation agreement to the United States of America, which has many clauses that are inimical to the national interest.
No, there's some.
Yeah, but parliament.
Parliament.
You know, seventh,
Yes,
eighth,
Parliament.
first parliament. You know.
No, but if you don't tell the distinction, some would.
But Mutala, today, today,
No, I agree, but I'm saying that.
Mutala, but today,
Yes.
I'm quite sure
Yeah.
that if the Defense Cooperation Pact is put before this parliament, it will be passed.
Oppose it.
Yeah?
We oppose it.
At that time, some people opposed it, but it was still passed. You understand? So, in advocating that this matter should be debated in parliament, I do so with a caution, and a caution of history. I do so from the lessons that we have learned from our history. You understand? I am getting seriously worried about the future of Africa, not just of Ghana, of Africa. You know, there's a new phenomenon, not that new, but there's a phenomenon which has been described as the race to the bottom. Have you heard about that before?
Yes.
Boss, have you heard about the race to the bottom before? How does it operate? These multinational corporations, they know that Ghana has gold, Guinea has gold, South Africa has gold, many countries, Mali has gold, and so on. So they emplane and they go to South Africa. And they tell the South African government that, look, as for investment, it goes to where the climate is favorable. So you give us favorable conditions, and if you give us favorable conditions, we bring our investment to South Africa. And South Africa government says, what do you want? And they say, well, we want tax holiday. So they give them 1 year tax holiday. As soon as they get the 1 year tax holiday, they are off to Burkina Faso. Say, South Africans have given us 1 year tax holiday, so all the investment are going to go there. You have to do better than South Africa. So Burkina Faso, in their fright and so on, say, oh, don't worry, we will give you 2 years tax holiday. They take that, they run to Guinea. Put up the same argument, the Guinea government gives them 3 years tax holiday. And after going round and round and round, they come to Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana with His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president. How much tax holiday do you think we'll give them?
10 years. 10 years.
So we are actually racing to the bottom. We are racing to the bottom. The way out of this is to have a Pan-African framework for these negotiations and for attracting investment. In our small units and so on, we will always be cheated. You know, and we'll be cheated because somehow our top officials, our academics and so on, think that the only thing that matters is the percentage of royalty which is being paid to us. And we lose all the time. There is no hurry, or there shouldn't be any hurry, in signing any agreement for the extraction of this mineral. We can take our time. It will not rot. It will not go away. It is there in the ground. Let us take our time and sign the best of agreements. And I'd like to go back a few years. You know, Professor Akil Akpasoya, I'm told, and I think it is true, one of the best lawyers ever that Ghana produced, an academic of significant repute, enviable repute, and so on. You know, he renegotiated the VACO agreement. You remember? Why did we have to renegotiate the VACO agreement? Because we came to the realization that we have been ripped off. Okay? Now, what happened? We got some concessions here and there, but we never got exactly what we wanted. Because at that time, they were holding our necks. If you insist, they mess you up. You understand? And so, Even with gold extraction, Professor Mills had to take steps to renegotiate some of these agreements and so on, with minimum success. This is the time we have the upper hand. If we don't rush to extract that resource, we will retain the upper hand. We rush to sign. You know, sometimes you have to check yourself, or the word which is coming. And thank God I've been able to develop a mechanism which is able to detect the words that are coming, and I can hold. Look, my friend, if you don't take that time and so on, and rush, we will very, very soon regret. Very, very soon we are going to regret. The other panelists have spoken about the benefits of lithium, I mean, its role in the energy sector and so on. They are right, I agree. But that is the more reason why we have to be sensible. We are talking about solar energy and so on. We are building solar panels across the country and so on. Those panels by themselves cannot help us to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and so on without batteries. Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia is making some promise. I don't know where that promise is coming, but he's making them. That very soon all trucks and taxis will be run on batteries. Abakede. This is what Super Odi used to call Abakede. That very soon trucks and taxis will all be running on batteries and so on. Where are you going to get the batteries from? Where is the feasibility of that project and so on? And we have lithium, and we are surrendering the lithium. Now, under the agreement, 50% of what is extracted will be exported to the United States of America for the production of batteries and other things, under the agreement. Now, in the debate, the Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission and one of the people who is uncomfortable with the agreement, they were having a debate on one of the radio stations. I think it was Joy FM and so. And he was talking about how he's an expert and how people don't know anything and so. Very interesting debate. So this guy from Imani made the point that there's an example from Zimbabwe that we can look at. And that Zimbabwe, by law, has actually banned the export of concentrates. Come and see this expert. That it is not true, it is a lie, and so on. The guy from Imani just pulled the law from Zimbabwe and put it on the table. You know what this proves? Those who are shouting themselves hawks, calling themselves experts and so on, they don't know nothing. They don't know anything. So we should be careful in listening to these so-called experts. In any case, all these experts, where were they? Sena, where were they when we sold our golden share in Ashanti? Were they not around? But we sold our golden share in Ashanti. Today, if you look at our mining operations, gold mining operations, what is the total interest of Ghana and Ghanaians in gold exploration? Recently, my very good friend, Dr. Sam Jonah, made a revelation that shocked me. Where is our interest in mining operation? It's all withered away. Our year is not even up to 3%. You understand? And we are going to listen to these experts again. Hey, what is wrong with us? Sena, let's end here.
Very interesting. The Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission takes the thing so personal. As if we are questioning a personal deal that he has entered into. Forgotten that is for the country anyway. Sami Zamaku says, Sena, Kwesi keeps saying we should take our time before signing the lithium agreement. The agreement is signed already.
It hasn't been approved.
Waiting for Parliament to approve it. Yeah, that's how he concludes. He's waiting for Parliament to approve it.
Exactly.
Even the member of Parliament.
So it is not effective
yes,
yet.
Yes. Even the member of Parliament is warning his colleagues not to act the same way they've been acting for some time.
Also, when our flag bearer has taken a position, and the position of the flag bearer and the leader of the party and the NDC is that we are not supporting this. So I can say that as far as we are concerned as a caucus, nobody is going to support this. If we want to go by the kinds of information...
Should I give you examples?
No, but
when your flag bearer took a position,
yes,
your party took a position, and Parliament went against those decisions.
Yes, I agree.
I
know sometimes the frustrations, we all go through such, but I'm saying that in this matter, there's not going to be sitting on the fence. If we want to go by some of the conversations we've had with some of our colleagues, there are members of MPP who have also expressed their disgust about this. I just hope that we will carry through. And I think that for once, we should be able to demonstrate to the Ghanaian people that we are truly representing their interests in Parliament by rejecting and not have given the ratification that is needed for this deal.
Okay. Let me do a few messages. This is Dr. Akova Segbefia, who says, my confusion in this lithium brouhaha lies in the argument that we need to exploit this mineral because the price is likely to fall in the very near future.
How?
Why try to flood the market with a product whose price is likely to tumble? I think all arguments must make sense to us. Please, else let the lithium remain in the ground. Thank you for that message that you send. There's also this one who says, the Geological Survey Department of Ghana reported occurrence of lithium from Winneba to Salt Pond and other areas in Ashanti in many of their Geological Survey report. Mr. Gio Kese, one-time director, has also published this in a book, Geology of Ghana, in 1985. Thanks. Oh, this is coming from Professor Ninoy Dowena. Thank you. Some more. Hadi in Pig Farm says, when will Mother Ghana rest more under this illegal connection government? President Nanado is the only president who has disappointed the past, disappointed the present, and disappointed the future. Surely the Nanado Baumia government will forever remain the biggest disappointment of the Fourth Republic of our dear nation. History will judge them, and they will go down in history book as failures. Allah save Mother Ghana from the hands of this Create, Loot, and Share Family and Friends government. Thank you, Hadi, for that message. Okay. This is Tafai Namahia. Sena, we don't need any mining of any of our natural resources to have a good leader who can make mining a beneficiary to us. We have been mining for only God knows how many years. But what have we benefited from that? Sena, I want to find out from Mia Boy whether he has, okay, he's asking about the Don's peculiar situation, whether he has filed appeal for that disqualification, because I was not happy when I heard about the disqualification, because we need people like him in Parliament with the kind of knowledge he has, especially about the economy. That's Tafa and Amahia who sent that message. Okay, so those are some of the messages we're getting from you on the matter of lithium. There's a lot of engagement on our WhatsApp line, text messages coming in. I'll go through some of them. We have to take a break. We'll come back. We're talking more about the future. This time around, the future of diplomacy in the wake of what is happening in Palestine, the invasion of Palestine by Israel.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
And thank you you for staying tuned to the Matter of All Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on Pan-African Television, live on Radio Gold. And of course, we just discussed the matter of the lithium arrangement. It's the Matter of All Talk Shows. Yeah, we say it's artists, no matter who is involved in the end, we'll leave you better educated. We have to move on to the issue of what is happening in Palestine and the implications for future diplomacy. Last week, I think Comrade was here when we had the discussion on the protests that happened in Tamale in solidarity with the people of Palestine. Of course, Comrade Kwesi Pratt is back and he's here with us. He was there. He led it. And then, so let's start with Comrade once again on this issue.
Like you indicated, I think we looked at the historical antecedents of the conflict, or if you like, the so-called conflict between Israel and Palestine. And I think that my position was made very clear. I don't see it to be a conflict between Israel and Palestine. It is nothing except that there is a brutal occupation which in the past had genocidal tendencies and which has been unleashed on the people of Palestine. I think the focus today is to look at the way forward, how we can find a solution to these problems. I will not pretend to have the solutions, and I don't think that any of us sitting here can prefer solutions. We can only... The only certain is that laudable as the solutions may be, if it is not in sync with America and the Western world, that solution will come to naught. We have had people who indeed themselves have been indirectly victims of the Holocaust. A classical example is Dr. Norman Finkelstein. Dr. Norman Finkelstein's parents were Holocaust survivors. And one of the reasons why many people have been more or less convinced into believing that Israel has the right to do what they are doing is because of the victimhood card. We have been reminded time and again the barbarism of Nazi Germany against the Jews. Yes, it's true. And the entire global community sympathizes with the Jews over the Holocaust. But let us also be reminded that we have had more atrocious, if you like, dehumanizing of people that were more profound than the Jewish experience. But the question is that why is it that that is not being trumpeted so much? Why is it that the Holocaust, which we all collectively condemned, is what is being trumpeted? A classical example has to do with slavery. Slavery killed hundreds of millions of Africans. The Nazi Germany barbarously murdered 6 million Jews, which ought to be condemned. But I'm not trying to justify that by looking at the killing of Africans in terms of slavery. But I'm just trying to make a point that we had more atrocious man-to-man treatment of each other in the slavery. In fact, what's the name of that African country? Patrice Lumumba's Congo. The Belgians killed over 20 million Congolese. Several folds the number of Jews who were barbarously murdered by Nazi Germany. But that is not given the currency as this one is given the currency. And I'll give you the reason is simple, which has a bearing on finding a diplomatic solution to the problems we have. The reason is that the barbarous murder of 6 million Jews, which collectively resoundingly condemned by everybody in this world, is given much attention than over hundreds of millions of Africans who were killed, than over 20 million Congolese who were killed by the Belgians because of the particular forces and the interests they have associated with these two, genocidal actions that were taken about these two groups. So if you are looking for solution, you need to look for the solution in the lenses of the powers that be. Everybody knows that the United Nations was created to suit the interests of the victors in the Second World War. And beyond that, but if you look at even the architecture or the structure of the United Nations itself, specifically the Security Council, you would come to the only conclusion that the geopolitics of the world is not fair and is not balanced anyway. Because why? The UN General Assembly is the highest decision-making body as far as the United Nations is concerned. However, on matters of security, it is the Security Council that has the final say. The Security Council structure itself, which is made up of 15 members, 10 of whom are rotational. You have 5 permanent members. And those 5 permanent members are those who were victors of the Second World War, except the Chinese. Except the Chinese. Russia, and many people do not even know that in the Second World War, more Russians were killed. Russia sacrificed millions of Russians' lives to protect the entire Europe. More Russians were killed in the Second World War than the Europeans who were killed. Few Americans didn't even participate, if you like, directly, as far as the First and the Second World Wars are all concerned. So you have Russia, you have France, you have Britain, you have China, and you have America. Now, if you have an arm of the entire United Nations, a body that we are told represents the interests of the entire world, and within that arm, you have 5 members who takes decisions, or whose decisions or positions matter on issues of security. When we know the chaos we have all experienced in this world and continue to experience and will continue to experience borders on security, global security. Now, if you have a decision that must be taken by this 15-member body, 9 voting for means that that decision should be upheld. Out of the 9, you must have all the 5 members being present, or none of them vetoing. Because you can have, let's say, 3 members say they abstain and they won't vote. And if they abstain, they are not voting, whatever decision that is taken by the other members, let's say 2 members voted for, and the other members voted, and you have 7 members voted for, and you have 9, it will stand as a decision. But if you have a single member, not just abstaining, but vetoing, that decision cannot be binding. You cannot have peace in this world without justice. It's a natural phenomenon. In fact, there is a known, one of the foremost international lawyers of the Jewish people, by name, his name is Yoran Distinct. And he says that, look, targeting groups or indiscriminate targeting of people are all genocidal actions. And that you cannot have justice, you cannot have peace without first and foremost looking for justice. Now, who determines justice? Is it the United Nations that determine justice, or the powers that be? To the extent that a Security Council are looking forward to ensure that there is a resolution. That resolution is not siding one party against the other. That resolution simply says that there should be a ceasefire, so that we can move into what is described as the two-state solution. Now you have one country that thinks that because we didn't start the resolution, we didn't draft the resolution, the first one, which was proposed by Russia and China, America vetoed. And the simple reason was that we were not those who initiated the resolution. You have other countries who came with another resolution. America didn't only abstain, they vetoed. Then you have a resolution which is triggered by the United Nations Secretary General himself. And this is about the 3rd or the 4th time that is being done. America says no. We are not only going to abstain, we are going to veto it. And this time around you have France. France, America, Canada, and if you want to talk about the 5 permanent members, you have France, Britain, and America, who initially were those who are drumming home the need for more Palestinians to be barbarously murdered. Now they realized that the killings were just too many. That France supported the last resolution. Britain, in their usually sheepish attitude, because when America says Britain jump, they are not saying won't jump. They will find out from America, Uncle Tom, how high do you want us to jump? Even with this, in their consciousness, Britain says, look, we won't veto this, but we are going to what? Abstain. And abstaining means any decision that is taken will be binding on all of us. America once again went to do what? To vote against it. And if you observed, any time any ceasefire that will ensure peace in this world, America always selects a minority person to vote against the veto. And in fact, I was shocked. I've seen videos, Colin Powell, even at that time, his position in the invasion of Iraq. You have Condoleezza Rice, invasion against Iraq. You have another pen, and I saw a video. Anytime at all, they use our own people, black people, who would vote against a decision that is approved globally. Now, with what they have done, the General Assembly then went ahead to also vote on this matter. And you had only 13 countries voting against the resolution. And you have about how many countries abstaining? Ukraine, strangely, abstained. What is the difference between the killing of innocent people in Ukraine and that of Palestine? And I remember on this program, I made a statement earlier, and some people were unhappy when this Ukraine issue came up. And I said, look, I sympathize with the lives that are lost in Ukraine. But Ukraine provided almost 5,000 troops in the invasion of Iraq. Invasion that was anchored on nothing but pact of lies. Now, one would expect that the killings we have this, and the reason why majority of the international community sided with you in the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and the fact that people were not just looking at what caused it, people were looking at the lives that were being lost. I was shocked that in this matter, that is not saying that we are giving Israel the right or Palestine the right. We want there to be ceasefire. Ukraine abstained. You know why? Togo, as a matter of fact, voted against the decision. And you can check it. So the reason is that the strings are pulled somewhere. Uncle Tom says that jump. How high should we jump? So you cannot be talking about peace without looking at justice. Because you see, this conflict has been raging for over 75 years. This 75 years, the reason is that both actors in this, particularly Israel, anchored their argument on the basis of things that cannot be proven, even by the Torah. Because I can't imagine why someone, I don't even know whether Netanyahu is believing Judaism. Because if you look at Orthodox Jews in Israel, things that his actions are affront to the teachings of the Torah. And in fact, you have people, Jewish in America and in Europe, who are organizing these demonstrations. Things that his actions do not actually represent their interests. His son DNA has been tested and is from Poland. And check the Israeli leaders all where they came from. So what I am simply saying is that there have been several attempts by the international community, particularly the United Nations, to ensure that there is a peaceful solution to this. And all of them trace it to the two-state solution, starting from 1967, when the international community came out and had a demarcation, unfortunately, that should be Israel and Palestine's, staying side by side as two independent states. Unfortunately, this has been thwarted. They do not only use political power, they use the media. They use the media. What has exposed? This has to do with TikTok. That there's now social media. People have access to have informations. The killings we are experiencing today didn't start today. And the killings we are experiencing today did not come as a result of what happened on October 7th. As a matter of fact, several months, about 3 months before October 7th, over 200 people were killed. Now, if in West Bank, if the argument is that it is targeting Hamas, why is it that West Bank and other places where you don't have Hamas representing are being killed? Okay. Because the media is being used. We were told in this country, or in this world, that 40 babies were beheaded. Rather shamelessly, you had the American president himself. Biden didn't just say, I have seen them. That I have seen it. That was his statement. Only for it to be proven. And the Washington, they backtracked and said, no, it wasn't true. Only for Israel itself to say that it's not true. Now, if you have a baby, your wife is expecting a baby. And unfortunately, your wife has given birth to a baby who is a premature baby. That baby needs an incubator to survive. They put the baby in an incubator. Then Israel says that Fisher Hospital, there is a Hamas control center there. And by so doing, lies should be, we should cut lies. Now you go there isn't any control center. Lives are being lost, babies, to the extent that people had to move on the roads, dogs, wild dogs, eating bodies of people who have died. And it isn't that people did not attempt to retrieve those bodies, but any attempt to retrieve the bodies, you'll be killed. Today, the reason why we have this carpet bombing is because they are looking for Hamas. Have you been able to find them? Okay. Now, the bizarre, and I'll conclude on this. Okay. That there should be peaceful solution, which you all agree. But there's a position. That position is that there is no way they can have this peaceful resolution with Hamas. How do you resolve that? I listened to the Israeli ambassador in UK, who was interviewed, and they asked her, specifically BBC, whether there can be solution, whether indeed Israel and Palestine can sit side by side. And her answer was emphatic, no. Now in Ghana, you have media houses that has brought Israeli ambassador, specifically, Ivan's program, brought Israeli ambassador in 2 conflicts. You brought one, she came and peddled those falsehoods. Don't we have a Palestinian ambassador in Ghana? Okay. Why was the Palestinian ambassador in Ghana not invited? You see, when you want to resolve a case, when we are looking at fairness and justice in terms of having a peaceful solution to something, let those who have the capacity and the opportunity, the privileged opportunity to indeed move the public perception, be fair. The media has a responsibility, and that responsibility must be done and done fairly and justly if we really want to have a permanent solution. And the only way we can do this is when we begin to see America shifting its position. Until such a time, unfortunately, we have these lives that are being lost repeatedly. And to be very honest, you have a people, they describe Israel, Gaza, as an open air prison. Some have argued that it's not prison, because you can't have a prison where it is open. This is subjugation. Now you think that when you kill 10 people, what are you making their children to do? 90% of Hamas members, if not 100%, were people who lost either both parent or one parent as a result of the atrocities of Israel. So it means that when you kill one person, you create more Hamas. So killing can never be a solution to any problem. The only way we can have a solution to this problem is, 1, when the killing stops. 2, there should be a ceasefire, and there should be just honest resolution and ensuring that we all go back to the Oslo Accord. When you had an Israeli prime minister who was in support of it, what happened? They gunned him down. Okay. Because he was looking for a peaceful solution to ensure between Palestinians and Israelis. So you have these hawkish people, and I must admit that you can have them in both sides, both on the side of Palestine and both on the side of Israel. The only way we can have a peaceful solution is when there is true justice in terms of finding a solution to this problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me say a big thank you to Shine FM in Akachi on 96.9, Hills FM in Adaklo 91.7, Nyawasi Radio Ketekrachi 89.7, Sela Radio Dabala 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale on 93.7, Bewa Radio in Yendi on 106.5, Radio Kitawan Saboba 95.7, Benya FM Almina 105.7, Global FM Ho 105.1, Zebs FM 95.9, in Zebila, True FM 92.5 in Adeso, Lamara FM 89.1 in Tripoli, Buem 88.7 FM in Jessica, Lukusi 96.1 in Vegolokwati, Tyne FM 90.9, and of course Sekpele 104.3 in Likpe Todume, the other voice from afar. Lawyer.
So I think the issue under consideration is for us to look at the genocide by Israel in Palestine. And then the future of that on international diplomacy. I think the starting point is to recognize that in the international space, individual countries are seen as the objects. So Ghana, Israel, we are the objects of international, and there's always some kind of relationship between these states, whether good, whether bad. But there ought to be, or there's always some kind of a relationship. Now, diplomacy is the skill that you use, or that is used to manage these relationships. Now, to appreciate the role diplomacy has played and the skill in managing these relationships, especially in the Israel-Palestine situation, And it's also important to understand that the Israel-Palestine situation goes way back centuries. Centuries, as in, especially if you read the Bible, and then the book of Judges, the book of First Samuel, Second Samuel, the issues between Israel and then the Philistines. Yeah, like even how Israel took over their land, even in the Bible, how they acquired Jerusalem and all the wars, and when they appreciate the fact that Jesus Christ, the country Jesus Christ grew in, was actually called Palestine. You understand? When you understand all those things, and then the Roman Empire's impact on them, and when you take all those things into consideration, this is a conflict that has been there for a very, 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 very long time. And also, when you take into consideration the position the world took after the Second World War, especially with the coming to force of the UN Charter, which charter was premised on certain principles which more or less sought to govern diplomacy. And one of the fundamental principles is the equality of all nations in the international space. So on paper, insofar as international relation is concerned, in fact, so far as the Committee of Nations are concerned, Ghana is equal to the United States. Togo, small Togo, is equal to Russia as a giant. But it's ironical that in the same document that said that all nation countries are sovereign, and when the document that governs how the UN was supposed to run, certain countries were deemed to be more equal than other countries. And for me, that has been the bane of the failure of international diplomacy in all the international issues that we have been plagued with since 1945. Because when Woodrow Wilson proposed the idea of the League of Nations after the First World War, and when we actually then created the UN, the thought was that we create a system that was going to create a utopia. You understand? An international system where wars and the use of force and would be brought to the barest minimum. But since 1945, we've had the Korea issue, we've had the Cuba issue, we've had the Vietnam issue, we've had the Israel-Palestine issue. We've had so many issues, and it's sad that the reason that underpins all these issues are the interest of those who are more equal, or the interest of those who are more equal than the rest. Also, Colin Powell, who during the infamous invasion of Iraq, the second invasion of Iraq, under the pretext of there being weapons of mass destruction, was at the center of that sad blot on the history of international diplomacy and international law, gave a speech in which he sought to outline certain principles which should underpin international diplomacy. Because, you see, we ought to understand that even though we say that all nations are equal, the fact of the matter is that some nations have stronger economic powers, they have stronger military powers, and they leverage on these strengths in their international diplomacy. Now, Colin Powell, in a speech in 2004, outlines 3 principles which I found very interesting and which must always be borne in mind by those countries who are more equal than the rest of us in how they use international diplomacy to sustain their international relations. The first principle Colin Powell spoke about is the principle that essentially says that power is a necessary condition for foreign policy success, but not always a sufficient one. I think what is happening with Israel right now gives credence to that. I'm sure Israel is simply bullying Palestine. Yeah, you understand? Remember, in October 7th, we all condemned what happened but can we say that Israel's response to what happened in October 7th can be justified? Can you explain why, I think over 18,000 people have died there? 19,000 people, 2/3 of which are women and children. Is it what's it called? I think, can you sustain an argument that Israel's action is in self-defense? Because it's about one body realizing that listen, I have military power, and so let me bully. By the way, maybe you can help me. What's Ghana's position? Well, I remember Ghana and Nado supported that. Has a position.
The General Assembly voted this time around. Ghana voted in support of the resolution.
Of the ceasefire.
Yeah, but Nana, that was his position. He
No,
said that
initially, if you look at the initial voting pattern, was consistent with his position.
Yeah.
We changed recently.
Yeah, initially we're voting
in favor of whatever the US
America
is.
wanted.
Yes.
But so right now,
we have
Ghana
changed.
voted
We have
in
changed.
support of
We are supporting the
General
US.
Assembly resolution.
but you see, but it is innate credence to the fact that when in international diplomacy, when you are in position of power, you must understand that your power is yes, it may be a necessary condition, but it's not sufficient.
Yeah.
It's not sufficient in international relations to bring about the kind of peace and the kind of fluidity we need amongst the committee of nations. And I'm mentioning Colin Powell because he's saying all these beautiful policies, and yet if there's we are in a world where those 5 nations, when they are considering their international policy, are driven solely by their selfish interests against what's in the interest of because I'm thinking that if a document that they led was after the Second World War, my brother gave too much credence to France. Would you consider France to be a victim of the Second World War? They actually they were invaded. The Normandy was actually to liberate what's it called? France. France.
Them collectively.
Oh no, we can't. No. So you give too much. You give them too much power. France lost that. France were within a matter of a week. Germany had run over France. Yeah, that means run over. And the whole V-Day thing was the day France was liberated. You understand? So so you have this principle. You have a policy that says that policy success comes easier when you work with more actors. Yes, so in international policy, you are guided by a principle that seeks to get more people on your side than against you. And I mentioned Colin Powell because of his stature in the US and because of in that speech he was touting these policies, these principles as the reason why US seemingly won the Cold War against the Soviet Union. You understand? Now, and so then the inconsistency in the whole international environment structure, inconsistent in terms of a principle that we are all equal, and yet when it comes to the active participation in the international committee, some nations are more equal clearly. Because if you can veto a decision, as if I say no, I don't agree with this, and it won't happen. So for me, this Palestine-Israel issue, the fact that we've had clearly from 1967 the two-state solution, you had the Oslo Accord, a number of all pointing to a two-state solution, and for whatever reason, we are unable to operationalize that, and there seems to be lack of commitment, especially from the major players, not as the major players, as the so-called 5, in the operationalization of what we all agree to be.
China and Russia have never been on.
Yes, but so it still boils down to that international relations can never succeed insofar as we have this veto system. And for me, the first solution is to, actualize that sovereignty, the equality of all nations. Well, unless that is done, and we still operate under a regime where some people are more equal than others, and so they can veto, then international relations or the politics of international law will be driven by the parochial interests of the so-called victors of the Second World War. Not that because right now, if we are supposed to vote, a huge, overwhelming majority of countries will vote in a certain way because one of the 5 actors vetoes, then we are all set back. So for me, I think to answer your question, what is the future of the genocide, the sad genocide, not just in Israel, but all the atrocities that have happened in the world after 1945, the Charter. It shows clearly that international diplomacy, the regime, the framework must be relooked at again. The serious amendments must be made to reflect the principles that's supposed to underpin international relations, which is the equality of all nations. And that means that Security Council, you have 5 people who can veto any decision, must be amended, and we must reflect the equality that we are preaching. Because unless and until it's really one country, one vote, unless no country has the right to veto any decision, then I think we'll be playing chaskele with international relations, and nothing really will be done. This Israel-Palestine issue and all the international issues that arise from time to time will keep on coming and going at the pleasure of some few countries who think that they are more equal than the rest.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I come to Don, this message says present-day Israel is not the same as the biblical Israel. Israel now is a terrorist and barbaric state. That's coming from one of the people who are listening to us. There's also, this is Al Jazeera 12 hours ago. Protests forced Israeli police to close streets around defense ministry. It says the protests in Tel Aviv, reflecting the anger of the families of captives held in Gaza after the announcement of the death of 3 captives at the hands of Israeli troops, began spontaneously on Friday evening. That is an interesting story where you have your citizens who you said are captives in another nation and you decide to bomb it. I've never heard that in my life before. As if your citizens cannot be affected. The whole theory does not make sense. Anyway, Don.
Well, we are talking about a war that has never ended, technically. The Palestinian people and the Israeli people have been in war for several ages now. We are talking about October 7th as if it was the Palestinian people who triggered a war. Technically, they are in war already. In fact, Israel is in war, technically, with Lebanon. And so, let us stop this thing about October 7th and all that. It is all about this Western media and creating the platform for Israel to misbehave. Sena, a gun with the safety off, pointed to your head, has nothing to do with diplomacy. Again, there is nothing diplomatic about supremacy. We were here when the Ukraine-Russia war began. And the US told us that the Ukrainians are in the majority and the bullier was Russia. And therefore, let's go and help Ukraine. Let's stand with Ukraine. In fact, the US said we are not going to get involved on the ground, but we will support the Ukrainians with money, with ammunitions, with equipment, so that the war will be a leveled up war. So I was thinking that the US will also arm Hamas and the people of Palestine so that there will be a level playing field in this war. All of a sudden, all sorts of prefixes are being given to genocide, unfolding genocide, critical conditions, all that. That is what we are calling diplomacy. The direction of the UN and the Security Council is to protect individuals who are not armed And if that is not being achieved, then from day one, whatever happened was genocide. The moment the internet was shut down by the Israelis, that was genocide. What were you preventing us from seeing? You show us videos of 7th October. Let us also see the videos of what is happening now in Gaza. You see, my prayer is that Hamas will regroup and launch a bigger attack on Israel. That is what is called level playing field and war. No one should describe what is going on as a war, when in fact, Big Joe is actually funding Israel, equipping Israel with ammunition to do what? To go commit genocide. And then turn around to sit in the UN Security Council and veto decisions for ceasefire. The war is not between Hamas and Israel. The war is between Hamas and the United States of America. There is nothing diplomatic about that. I watched a young boy playing football in Gaza being interviewed. And the interviewer asked, what is the future like for you? And for a small boy, I think the age will be around between 7 to 10 years. He says, we have no future in Gaza. Such a boy, growing up, is already a weapon. So if you create such weapons, what do you expect from them? And it is the US creating this. If I am occupied, if my citizens will be arrested without trial and be dumped anywhere, if someone directs what I eat, what I drink, the fuel I use, I am not able to fly, even if I have the means to do it, unless Israel permits me. A total occupation such as this. And you are asking the people of Palestine not to fight back. They will keep fighting back. They are only fighting for their rights. The rights enshrined in the UN chapters that the US pretend leading and so much cares about the human rights of everyone in this world, yet turns around, supplied ammunition to kill people whose hands have been tied behind them. Why is Israel not using ground troops to enter into Hamas and have a fair fight with the people of Gaza? They are allowed to fly all sorts of jets into Gaza and bomb at will anything they feel, or they can put the name of Hamas on it. If you ask the people not to live freely on their land and they decide to live underground, what is your business in that? Why are we being shown pictures of tunnels as a justification to go and kill women and children? Take power out of hospitals. Is that enough? Then I think Putin should push Venezuela should also push on Guyana, and the US should shut up. And soon, you would have Nigeria, who thinks that probably Benin is too small and it should be part of it, so it can occupy it and become part of Nigeria. Is that the world the US claim they are leading and they are the superpowers? They are superpower to protect humans and their rights. But their superpower is being used to kill innocent women and children and unarmed men. And that is not acceptable. On any day, for what the Palestinians are going through, it is acceptable for them to enter into Israel and also kill. Because that is the only way to be heard. Why? Did they not call Nelson Mandela a terrorist? The man they pretend to celebrate these days, they called him a terrorist. Why? Because he fought against their, like the words might, fought against their nonsense. He fought for his right. He fought for his people. The people of Palestine have every right to fight and kill for their freedom. They are so justified to do what they did. The killings in Palestine or in Gaza has never stopped. Their arrests has never stopped. How do you take it when they can exchange 150 Palestinian prisoners for just about 30 Israeli prisoners? Ask yourself, without the capturing of those Israelis, with American citizens in there, would they have gotten their brothers, their wives, their sisters, their fathers back from the prisons of Israel? No. And therefore, their actions are right. And the US, if they have any gumptions in their head, if they have any feelings for humans, they should be supporting the people of Palestine and not Israel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Comrade Pratt.
You know, it was the Hitlerite leader, Goebbels, who came up with the theory that if you constantly repeat a lie, it becomes acceptable. It does seem to me that the propaganda machine of the Zionist apartheid state is taking a leaf from Hitlerite propaganda. At the very beginning, the Israeli propaganda machine alleged that Hamas on the 7th of October killed children, babies, and raped women. This has long been debunked as untrue. It is not true. It didn't happen. In fact, now there's evidence, empirical, that even some of the people who were killed at the music festival were killed by Israeli helicopter gunshots. And yet, Israel continues to repeat this lie. This morning as I was driving to the program, I was listening to the British Broadcasting Corporation. And Israeli propagandists were insisting that women were raped. In fact, they are even insisting that some of the so-called hostages were raped and abused and so on. You see, Sena, those who were released, the first two women who were released, were so grateful to Hamas for the treatment that they received. They actually said that their medicines, they had a constant supply of their medicines. They ate the same food as Hamas commanders ate, and so on. The second batch, one of the women actually said that her daughter was treated like a queen. That in the hands of Hamas, the daughter felt like a queen. One of the so-called hostages actually wrote a letter to thank Hamas for the humane treatment that she received. The Israeli Hitlerite propaganda machine is still repeating this falsehood. And that is significant. Now, in this war, whose narrative are we to believe? Everything Hamas has said has turned out to be true. 90% of what Israel has put out has turned out to be lies, fabrications. Who are we to believe? Yesterday, something very significant started in Israel. And indeed, you read something which indicated what was happening in Israel. Thousands of Israeli citizens, thousands, stormed the military camp in Israel, insisting that their government should give in to the demands of Hamas, insisting that there should be a ceasefire in the war. And as you indicated, that protest is continuing even today. The Israelis are fed up with their own government. Why? Even before 7th October, hundreds of thousands of them were in the streets demanding the resignation of Netanyahu because of failure, complete failure, useless, corrupt failure. So, where do we stand? Comrade Mutala asked or suggested that nobody has a solution to the problem. I do, and I said I do. The solution to the problem is very simple. An end to colonial apartheid occupation. The day we get an end to colonial apartheid occupation, there will be no problems in that region. That's the solution. There's only one solution. Okay? Now, the news that came out yesterday, that the Israelis have actually killed 3 Israeli citizens in Palestine, is interesting. What does that suggest? Indiscriminate killing. They are killing by heart. They don't care who they kill. And in the process, they've killed 3 of the so-called hostages. And you know why I use the term so-called? Since October 7th, the Israelis have abducted at least 4,000 Palestinians that they are holding. Who are they? Are they not hostages too? Now, if they are not hostages, then those who are being held in Gaza are also not hostages. These are women, children, the infirm, and so on, who have been abducted from the West Bank and put in Israeli prisons. For what? They haven't been charged. They have not been tried. They are in Israeli hands. What are they? Are they not hostages? Let's keep the propaganda. Let's get to the bare facts. Fortunately, Israel is not winning the war at all. Within the last 72 hours, the figures which have been released are frightening. In fact, virtually every hour, Israel loses a military armored vehicle. Every hour, one armored vehicle is lost. That's significant. And what is happening? Hamas are using homemade equipment they make in their kitchen for less than $200, taking out tanks that cost $1 million. You understand? They are losing the war. Indeed, yesterday, 36 Israeli soldiers were killed. This morning as I was coming, there was an Israeli general who made the point that the Israeli military has not been able to design any tactic which enables them to defeat Hamas. And in fact, the leader of Hamas yesterday made a statement saying that they've turned the streets of Gaza into, I've forgotten the right term that he used, but they have no answer. They are fighting Hamas, which doesn't have the sophisticated weapons they have. It doesn't, truly speaking, doesn't have an army, doesn't have a navy, doesn't have an air force. In fact, Gaza has no airport at all. And for 71 years, they have not been able to make any headway. Where is the Israeli invincibility we were told about? Where is that Israeli invincibility we were told about? And a lot of people, when they think about Hamas, they think some ruffians, and so on. Massa, go and check the record. The Hamas fighters, most of them are engineers. Some of them have PhDs. They are university graduates and so on, who are committed to the liberation of their country. If they were dummies, and so on, do you think that for 71 days they could have done the fighting that they are doing? They think. Even if you look at the tunnels that they have constructed, the engineering skills that went into it, not be joke, my brother. You understand? They are not just some ruffians and so on. That's the impression which is being created by the Western media. Highly educated, highly sophisticated people with a determination to liberate their country. You understand? Now, as for the United States, the least said about them, the better. They don't want civilians killed. Meanwhile, they are supplying the weapons which are used in killing the civilians. They say they don't want civilians killed, but they are the people supplying the weapons for the civilians to get killed. The cabinet meeting which decided on the invasion of Gaza. The American Secretary of State was sitting in that cabinet meeting. What was he doing there? They are vetoing resolutions in the UN Security Council and so on. And then they turn around and say that they don't want Palestinians injured or harmed. They should stop this joke. Yes, they should completely stop this joke. Look, throughout history, justice has always won over injustice. Throughout history. And I have no doubt in my head that in Palestine, justice will prevail over injustice. And that day is coming very, very soon. That day is in the horizon. It's coming very, very, very soon. My own worry is that for some time, this genocidal war has been conducted in my name. That's my worry. My worry is that there has been a declaration of support for this genocidal war in my name. When my president made a declaration that we firmly stand with Israel and Ukraine, presumably he was speaking in my name, and that is my deep worry. And I've done everything possible to disassociate myself from the statement of my president. But that stain is still there. I don't know what detergent can wash away that stain. Palestine will be free.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a message. Says, please remind listeners that Israel openly supported apartheid in South Africa and actually supplied arms to the apartheid regime to suppress blacks while tagging Mandela as a terrorist. There's Sampi, the ambassador, who says, when Germany put them in gas chambers, the world stood up for them. We called it Holocaust. In South Africa, we called it apartheid and fought for its abolition. Ghana fought the slave trade and colonialism by shamefully supporting Israel. Where is the conscience of the world? Well, thank you.
When is he coming back to the show?
Ambassador is available at
he
any time.
He has been missing for too long. Am I lying?
Yes, he's around. Good morning to him. And of course, thank you very much for making time to join the Mother of All Talk
But Sena, I
for
understand that on the 30th of December,
yes,
Alhaji and Alhaji moves
we'll
to
be in
Tamale.
Tamale.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
And why are you not announcing it?
Yeah. Well,
in my territory.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, like Mr. Pratt said, Alhaji and Alhaji will be in Tamale, in the territory of Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed. And of course, that will be the last one for the year 2023 as we enter into 2024, which is an election year. What we will see next year, only God knows. Well, I'd like to say a big thank you to Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. As always, a pleasure hosting him on the show. He keeps reminding us that sometimes, even when we think we are doing the best intellectual discussions, we are still put just openly showing our mediocrity. He's the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, and of course, Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed is Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. And of course, a big thank you to lawyer Apia Dankwa, who is a member of Alan for 2024. Alan for President 2024. Okay.
Afafranto.
Yellow.
Next time I wear yellow.
Yes.
Next time I wear yellow.
One of the people who usually disagrees with a lot of the things he say, Mambia Damba is supporting you today. That's for him because of the JC. Well, nice to see Don. Ni Yaboy Anan of Odododio. Simply put.
Soon to become a butterfly.
Yes. Solo has already put him in the butterfly suit.
Soon to come. These are
the call was swift.
the caterpillar stage.
I haven't advised him publicly yet.
The caterpillar stage.
But I will.
Okay.
I will. Okay. I will advise my brother and friend. He's somebody I've come to respect a lot. There's a lot to be done. Many positions to occupy. Do not let one position determine your future. That's my advice.
Thank you.
Right. We who haven't been members of parliament all of our lives, are we dead? We are not.
But you are one of the most influential Ghanaians without necessarily occupying any position.
That is not true anyway.
A belated happy birthday to you, Comrade Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed. Celebrated his birthday on Thursday. Comrade, you have never organized a party before. You insist on not organizing a party.
I don't celebrate birthdays.
You don't.
So what do you celebrate? Death days?
No, I don't. I mean, for me, and I don't celebrate birthday on some very good principles. One, I think one is philosophical, two is religious.
Okay.
Yes, philosophical, I feel that you must not celebrate a day. I mean, God has created us with a number of years you should live. So if God has given me, let's say, 70 years, for example, or 80. So every year, 1 year is taken out and you are celebrating. And the other one is, I don't think that it's recommended by Islam to do that. On that day, actually, I pray, I read a lot of the Quran on that day. Beyond that, I don't have a party that I do.
That you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Whatever I want to give, I give it to people who desperately need it, and it's just between me and my creator. But I don't throw parties at them.
One of these days you organize. And Mr. Pratt, I hear Beatrice Sena is organizing a Christmas dinner. I don't know if you've been invited. Me, I saw it on Facebook.
Who am I to be invited?
Because I have been. I thought at least you will be invited.
No, who am I?
But he's already mentioned that you are the most influential.
Yes.
No, but I'm not. This proves I want to say
He's denying that, but that's a fact.
And when I say influential, I mean your voice.
No, influential in all. Don't try to explain it.
Yeah.
Let the viewing public
determine for themselves. Okay. Let me say a big thank you to the production crew, and of course Latifa is in charge of production today, and a big thank you to Tijani and Irabana, and of course director Dion Hubert, sound Emmanuel Osei, KTT, and of course Theophilus Ruben, and everybody who played a part in bringing this show on Pan-African television. And a big thank you to Comrade Pratt as always. And we're live on Pan-African television, live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a fruitful week. We'll meet same time next week. And congratulations to Ethel. Congratulations to my very good friend Ethel. You are now NS. Congratulations to you. We'll see you next week.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He